Welcome to the 8 p.m. news on Canal English with me, Annette Sobe. We begin with our top stories for tonight. The chief town of the southwest region, BUEA, was tense today as ghost town was observed amidst gun battles. Inhabitants remains indoor. Mass exodus in the northwest region as families move to safer towns following the announcement of 10 days of ghost town. Meantime, people who plan to stay back are stocking the houses with food. Traders of the Mbopi market in Douala today went on rampage as they continue to reject an ad hoc committee put in place to manage affairs. Some traders were arrested. Today is World Cancer Day, and some 14,000 new cancer cases are diagnosed each year. Out of the country, Ghana's president has apologized to people with disabilities over his use of the words blind and deaf in a political speech. Developments will be yours right ahead. We move over to the northwest region where several families have been rendered homeless after the houses were burnt to ashes in Kumbo. Regina Leke Fonjatanda comes back to the details of what happened exactly. Her report.
Meluf in Kumbo, BUEA division of the Northwest region, is once again burning. About a dozen of homes in Fikov, a neighborhood in Meluf, were set ablaze over the weekend. One of the victims, Euben Isaac, narrates his ordeal.
So all of us dispersed and ran away, and then there was gunfiring for a very long period of time. We were hiding in the bushes, and then it went right up to evening, about maybe past 7 o'clock, and then I was receiving phone calls from people. One person informed me that there was fire, smoke emanating from around my compound.
Euben Isaac's 86-year-old mother, who could not run for her life, was almost burnt in the home, if not for a good Samaritan.
I saw the compound like that. I didn't know where my mother was. I dashed into the room where she was staying. There was nobody. I ran into all the rooms. There was nobody. Came out crying. And then as I was reaching outside, somebody told me that my mother was taken to a nearby compound by some good Samaritans.
According to some reports, Canal English cannot independently verify, the Cameroonian military on that fateful day were struggling to open the roadblock linking Kumbo and Oko, and were attacked by separatist fighters before these houses were set ablaze. The people say they have lost everything and do not know where to turn to for help.
They burn house, they burn chop.
They burnt my home. They burnt all of my food that I managed to gather with my children. Even the drinks we bought and kept in the shop, they looted it and went and drank. Here I am. I have nothing to give my children. All their clothes are equally burnt. One of the houses burnt is a home where the people in this community hold a meeting to make contributions for what is often referred to as Njange. The records are now all gone. This recent incident of burning comes to add to dozens of homes that have been burnt before, in Meluf in particular, and the BUEA division in general.
We remain in the northwest region where an uneasy calm reigns in Widdicombe after a widow and her son were killed. They came face to face with gunmen where they were on their way to bury one of theirs. This report with D. Morin.
It was a black Saturday for the Engren family of Tamalon quarters in Bamenda after the death of Enu, angry following an illness, the funeral convoy left Bamenda last Saturday for his native Eka village in Widdicombe subdivision, while in Taban village in Batibo subdivision, about to enter Widdicombe, the funeral procession came under fire from a gun battle between the Cameroon military and Ambazonian fighters. This led to the death of the widow Cynthia Ngri, one of the children and the family-in-law. Several other mourners were also wounded from the heavy and sporadic firepower, while the rest sought refuge in nearby bushes, abandoning the corpse on the spot. It was after tension had gone down that the corpses were conveyed back to the Bamenda Regional Hospital mortuary, including that of Richard Enu Ngri, who was already a few kilometers from his final resting place. It should be recalled that Richard Enu Ngri was the principal of GSS Konda in Jikwa subdivision before taking ill and dying later.
Many families in the northwest region, particularly in the town of Bamenda, are stocking their homes with food following the announcement of 10 days of ghost town, while those who plan to stay, while others have taken to safer towns, as we hear in the following report with Regina Leke Fonja Tandan.
It was an unusual influx at the Bamenda 3 market, also known as the Quen market, as customers rushed to buy food items. As compared to the other days, I was surprised to see the huge number of people coming to buy. It looks like it's Christmas, whereas it's not Christmas. Since the crisis escalated, we have never seen the market this busy in Bamenda. Yesterday we had so many customers who came to buy. Today the turnout is even higher.
Very good moment where people are really fine. They never ever reach this one. Yesterday it was wonderful. You think say it will be in a half. But today see it don't surpass the one for yesterday.
It would be recalled that separatist fighters clamoring for an independent state to be called Ambazonia have made numerous announcements about a pending lockdown in the northwest and southwest region that supposedly kicks off this Monday, February the 4th, 2019, to run to February the 14th, 2019. In the announcement, they equally called on families in these two regions to stock their homes with foodstuff. This, according to reports, explains the influx in this market. As people stocked their homes, there was equally a mass exodus as many people were seen at motor parks leaving the troubled northwest region for safer towns, preferably in the francophone areas. Transport fares have reportedly gone up, and transport agencies, just like truck pushers, are seizing the opportunity to make brisk business.
The multi-purpose intervention group, which is currently tracking hostage takers in the Adamawa region, is also bent on curbing poaching in some localities. An operation launched recently aims at restoring peace and serenity amongst inhabitants who have been victims of constant attack. Crystal Katala reports.
The hunt down of abductors has started in the Adamawa region, where panda is said to be the most haunted animal in the savannah. Here, the multi-purpose intervention group, which arrived the region few days ago, is receiving instructions on how to proceed with the operation. The Gahan subdivision was chosen as launching point. The locality of Balili in the Villa division is said to be one of the most affected with recurrent cases of abductions. Bilele, Matab and Yokudontu are not left out. We were discouraged, we were weakened, we felt hungry. The population of Ngaha, traditional chiefs, are very happy. The administrative authority has assured the unit of the population's collaboration. Prayers were also lifted up for the success of the operation that has to be carried out without intimidation nor attempt to human rights. The arrival and presence of this special troop in our locality reassure and galvanize the population. This encourages us to assist them in their mission. They have an objective to attain and the will to do that without obstructing the smooth functioning of activities of one another without fraud. Hostage takers will henceforth be confronted to this special force which has as mission to reinstall calm and serenity amongst villagers, their camps and livestock.
The Mbopi market in Douala was at the center of another drama today as traders clashed with council police. Shops were shut, traders were arrested as the traders continued to reject an ad hoc committee that was put in place to manage the affairs of the said market. More on this with Ndimorin.
It was a tense Monday at the Mbopi market in Douala. Forces of law and order stormed the market, arresting traders, a problem that forced others to quickly lock up their shops in retaliation to the arrest. The traders expressed anger over the decision taken by the authorities to seal the bureau of an association of traders headed by Alice Makeju, the supposed leader, who is also contested by the Douala Urban Council. The traders are bitter and have poured out their frustrations over the creation of the ad hoc committee to manage the affairs of the market.
On a le problème du comité ad hoc qui ne donne aucun espace, on ne vit pas.
Our problem centers around the ad hoc committee. They don't give us a breathing space anymore. They impose everything on us. Take for example, they want us to buy a meters and right to ownership of a meter. That's 200 persons or a meter, and you pay 10,000 francs and above. It's just too much. Just look at where I am, this space. They want to construct a transformation center. Yeah, they want to take all of this space. We have rejected it. If they take this space, for example, how will firefighters get in when there is a fire incident at the market? It's a problem. We are bent on our decision. Those who cause this problem should repair the problem and make sure the shops are reopened. Members of the accused ad hoc committee refuse to talk to our cameras, while CUD officials are yet to react as well. It should be noted the Mbopi market in Douala was at the center of the same drama between local traders and municipal police of the Douala City Council on Thursday, January 2014. Sources at the market told us clashes erupted when the council police arrived at the market and disrupted a meeting of traders led by embattled president of the Traders Association, Alice Makeju. The traders who had received authorization from the divisional officer of Douala 1 were holding a meeting to get acquainted with the 2019 finance bill in Cameroon, as well as explore measures to beef up security in the market. The council police justified their action, saying the divisional officer for Douala 1 had later withdrawn the authorization for the meeting to hold. The drama is far from ending.
We now take you to Ambam, where many families have been rendered homeless after their homes were consumed by a wildfire. Business places were equally consumed, as we hear in the following report once more with Ndimorin.
Occupants are still searching in the rubbles, hoping they could still save important valuables. We are in Ambam. The fire broke out Sunday night and quickly spread, ravaging 10 houses on its path. The rains that battered the town some hours before was accompanied by violent thunder, which is said to have provoked the fire. As the thunder struck, it caused the metals to explode, and it resulted to wildfire. 10 houses, including a snack bars, private residences and business sites, went into flames. This woman lost everything in the fire. I lost everything, my children's dresses, their school bags, everything. I could not save even a single item. The rain was threatening and the thunder struck. It hit the metals, and that's how the fire started. Before we could know it, there was fire everywhere. Everybody panicked. Many houses were affected at the same time. We had to stay this way to save some of the houses. We had to stay this way to prevent the fire from spreading. Material damage was enormous and evaluated to millions of francs CFA. The victims are stranded and say they now sleep in open air since they have not had assistance from persons of goodwill.
We remain in the South region. Cities have effectively resumed at the border between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea several months after it was closed for security reasons. With the borders now reopened, the people are once more happy. This report with Amber Gladys Ndiban. We are sorry, we are going to come back to this report. We move on to something else where Cameroon's Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, Alamin Osman May, and the new Turkish ambassador to Cameroon have discussed bilateral ties. Discussions centered on how the rich or long relationship countries can move onto higher economic level, mostly on the promotion of private and public partnership for the transformation of Cameroon's exports to finished goods. Details of what the two ministers discussed in the following excerpt.
The role of private sector in Turkish private sector in Cameroon, the international cooperation projects that we could elaborate further, mainly in education sector, education, employment, employability. It has been going very well. We already signed several agreements, and our presidents visited each country in 2010 and later, and our cooperation is going very well.
The first ever General Assembly on local councils we hold in Yaoundé from the 6th to the 7th of February this year to hold on the theme Deepening Decentralization. For 2 days, participants will map out strategies to accelerate the decentralization process in Cameroon. Let's now hear from the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, George Elanga Ubam, who spoke to our reporter, Tabby Clarkson.
The purpose of the conference is to take stock of the situation of councils in order to give a new impetus through a participative approach which will bring a new dynamics in the organization and functioning of local and city councils. This conference will provide the necessary framework for concerted and profound reflections on the council situation, following the discussions on the various themes whose conclusions and recommendations will serve as a lever for the modernization of our councils. This will foster the strengthening of local democracy and governance.
Some militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party arrested last week have been observing hunger strike in their various detention centers in Yaoundé. To the Secretary General of the party, the move is to press on government for their release, while stressing that the militants were arrested arbitrarily after the appearance of the 34 militants of the party in court last week. Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party hierarchy says they look forward to the case of their leader, Professor Maurice Kamto, this week. We now talk health, as today is being commemorated as World Cancer Day under the theme, I am and I will. Cancer, some 14,000 new cancer cases are detected every year, as we hear in the following report with Dominique Meme.
At least 14,000 new cases of cancer are diagnosed every year in Cameroon. The disease, which is said to be fast spreading equally, has a high mortality rate. Cancer can be repartitioned into different types.
Most prevalent cancers are cancers of the breast. that account for about 30% of all cancers, followed by cancer of the cervix, that follows closely with about 25%, and then cancer of the prostate, which is found in men above 40 years, at a prevalence of about 18%, then followed by cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphomas. These are cancers that are very related to HIV/AIDS, with a prevalence of about 16%. And then we have cancers of the liver that are prevalent at about 12%.
The causes of cancer varied, but what is unknown to many is the fact that cancer-causing agents are highly environmental.
Irradiation, people working in X-ray industries are exposed to irradiation, which is carcinogenic. There are certain fertilizers that are used. There are certain chemicals that are emitted from industries that are very toxic to, like polyvinyl chloride, that can cause cancers of the bladder and the urinary tract. So, environmental factors would include chemicals, toxins, and hazardous chemicals and drugs, and especially fertilizers that contaminate the foods that we consume.
Most people who get infected with cancer end up dying. Medit explains this is mostly because most patients show up in hospitals at very advanced stages.
About 60 to 70% of our patients present at late stage of cancer, at very advanced stages, where we cannot cure the cancer. We can only give palliative care, that is, care for the patients to die in dignity and out of pain. If you look at it that way, and from our data collected in the hospitals, we know that about 7 out of 10 patients with cancer will die within 5.
The mortality rate is equally high because treatment for cancer is very expensive.
Patients cannot afford treatment because to treat an average cancer successfully, you need about 3 to 4 to 5 million francs. How many Cameroonians can afford that? The government timidly tries to periodically, spontaneously, erratically provide drugs and other facilities for management of cancer, but this is not regular and it is not enough.
We now talk sports, and the second edition of the African Under-23 Cycling Nations Cup kicked off today at the Besenga Railway Station in Douala. 108 athletes from 13 countries from Africa, Europe and Asia are taking part in the competition. The athletes are grouped into 8 competing teams, with Japan, France and Ecuador as well as Argentina having the highest number of participating athletes. The first lap of the competition covered a distance of 18.8 kilometers with an estimated time of 1 hour 30 minutes. Let's now listen to one of the athletes participating in the Under-23 Cycling Nations Cup.
From where I live, it's like 4 degrees now to what feels like 44 here. It's 36 or so. Yeah, no, but happy out. Like I think, I'm not sure we could have gave it much more, but so we gave it all. So that's all you can ask, really. Like, you know. No problem. Thank you.
We now move out of the country, where the Ghanaian president has apologized to people with disabilities for his use of the words blind and deaf in a political speech last week. He said his government has fulfilled 41 promises it would make it made it to Ghanaians and added that only the blind and deaf would ignore that the promises have been fulfilled. He apologized after the Ghanaian Federation of Disability Organization expressed their disappointment over the president's use of the words deaf and blind. Mr. Akufo-Addo on his Facebook page said if there has been any government that has been on the sides of persons with disability, it is his government. An Egyptian court is seeking the death penalty for 8 defendants who allegedly plotted to kill President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi. The accused are said to have formed a terrorist cell that planned to strike in 2014. They were alleged to have intended to assassinate both Mr. Sisi and the former Saudi Crown Prince while the Egyptian leader was on pilgrimage to Mecca. This information brings us to the end of the 8 p.m. newscast tonight on Canal English. Thanks for watching.